The most feared pirate on the Atlantic captured hundreds of ships and believed no navy could stop him until a single Royal Navy trap shattered his flagship. A musket ball killed Black Bart where he stood, and the destruction of his crew became one of the decisive moments that brought the Golden Age of Piracy to its bloody end.
Enjoy the video and don't forget to subscribe.
Trace your finger along the map from the Gulf of Guinea toward the western coast of Central Africa and picture the year 1722 as the smell of rotting oak, boiling pine tar, damp hemp rigging, stale bilge water, hot tarred rope, sulfur residue, and tropical salt drifted beneath heavy gray clouds while snapping canvas echoed across an ocean that had become the deadliest commercial highway on Earth. During the final years of the Golden Age of Piracy, merchant convoys carried ivory, beeswax, enslaved captives, gold dust, sugar, tobacco, and manufactured goods worth fortunes, while pirate captains searched relentlessly for isolated prizes beyond the protection of Royal Navy squadrons. Among every feared name sailing beneath the black flag, none inspired greater anxiety than Bartholomew Roberts, remembered as Black Bart, whose remarkable campaign between 1719 and 1722 resulted in the capture of hundreds of vessels across the Atlantic. His flagship, the Royal Fortune, displaced roughly 150 tons and carried heavy artillery mounted behind thick bulwarks constructed from white oak futtocks fastened with hand-forged iron spikes exceeding 11 inches in length. The hull displayed pronounced tumble-home that reduced incoming boarding angles while strengthening the upper works against recoil generated by bronze cannon cast from an alloy containing approximately 88% copper and 10% tin with trace impurities. Every seam had been packed with twisted oakum before heated pine tar sealed the planking during repeated careening operations, preserving the vessel against relentless shipworm damage and tropical rot. Roberts ruled through carefully enforced articles of agreement, yet discipline alone could not stop an enemy that had begun studying every movement of his crew with ruthless patience. The Admiralty had grown exhausted by years of humiliating losses because merchant insurance rates climbed with every successful pirate raid, forcing Britain to devote increasingly valuable warships to convoy protection instead of imperial expansion. Intelligence gathered from merchants, captured sailors, colonial governors, and former pirates gradually revealed Roberts' preferred hunting grounds near the African coast, where seasonal trade winds and predictable shipping routes created ideal opportunities for ambush. Early in 1722, the Royal Navy entrusted Captain Challoner Ogle aboard HMS Swallow, a purpose-built warship of roughly 400 tons carrying powerful broadside batteries supported by reinforced gun decks, massive hanging knees, thick deck beams, and carefully maintained standing rigging designed to survive repeated combat. Unlike merchant captains, Ogle possessed experienced naval gunners who drilled relentlessly until every loading sequence became mechanical precision. Powder boys carried cartridges containing black powder composed of approximately 75% saltpeter, 15% charcoal, and 10% sulfur packed within flannel bags that reduced moisture contamination. Sponge staffs extinguished lingering embers before ironworms cleared fragments from the bore, preventing catastrophic premature ignition. Bronze and iron cannon rested upon sturdy elm carriages secured by breeching ropes nearly 5 inches in circumference, absorbing tremendous recoil while preserving carriage alignment. Every sailor understood his assigned position to the nearest foot of deck space because victory depended upon synchronized movements measured in seconds rather than minutes. While Roberts celebrated recent captures and believed another easy prize approached the horizon, Ogle quietly prepared a trap calculated with the cold precision of professional naval warfare rather than reckless courage alone. Morning light broke through scattered clouds off Cape Lopez on the 10th of February 1722 as humid air shimmered above gentle Atlantic swells, and lookout crews aboard the Royal Fortune spotted what appeared to be an isolated merchant vessel standing offshore under reduced canvas. Roberts believed the stranger offered another profitable capture and immediately ordered pursuit, unaware that HMS Swallow had deliberately disguised her intentions after separating from the pirate consort. As the distance narrowed, experienced naval officers quietly cleared for action. Hammocks were lashed along the bulwarks to reduce splinter casualties while gun captains checked vent picks, priming horns, quoins, handspikes, tackles, and elevation wedges with practiced efficiency. Below deck, carpenters prepared spare plugs, oak wedges, collision mats, and heavy pumps in expectation of battle damage. Roberts refused to delay, trusting the remarkable speed of his vessel, whose clean hull, recently protected through careful careening, sliced efficiently through the water beneath tightly trimmed canvas. Crewmen hauled braces, sheets, halyards, and bowlines while blocks shrieked beneath enormous strain and tarred hemp rigging vibrated with every gust. Only when the range had closed to devastating distance did the deception end. Swallow suddenly revealed her true identity, run-out gun ports exposing disciplined batteries that transformed the seemingly harmless target into a floating fortress. The Royal Navy had not arrived merely to scatter pirates or seize stolen cargo. Its officers intended to annihilate Roberts' command so completely that every surviving sailor across the Atlantic would understand that Britain's patience with the Black Flag had finally reached its absolute limit. The opening broadside erupted with overwhelming violence as flintlocks ignited fine priming powder inside each vent, transmitting fire through the touch hole into the main charge where expanding gases accelerated solid iron round, shot down carefully bored cannon barrels before the projectiles smashed into the Royal Fortune with terrifying momentum. Massive oak planking burst apart as thousands of razor-sharp splinters exploded through crowded gun crews, often causing deadlier wounds than the cannonballs themselves. Thick white oak futtocks cracked beneath concentrated impact, while iron spikes twisted under enormous stress, and shattered knees transferred destructive force across adjoining frames. Roberts, dressed in crimson waistcoat and feathered hat according to several contemporary accounts, reportedly remained visible upon the quarterdeck encouraging resistance despite the relentless bombardment. Pirate gunners attempted rapid return fire, but years of capturing lightly defended merchantmen had not prepared many of them for the disciplined rhythm of a trained naval crew. Smoke rolled across both vessels until visibility narrowed to only a few yards, forcing officers to judge range through flashes, sound, and instinct. Swallow maintained deliberate spacing, avoiding reckless boarding while exploiting superior gunnery, stronger construction, and relentless fire control. Every discharged cannon recoiled against heavy breaching ropes before crews swabbed the bore, loaded fresh powder, rammed wadding, seated iron shot, pierced the cartridge, primed the vent, and ran the weapon out again with astonishing speed. Each completed cycle steadily reduced the pirate ship from a feared predator into a battered wreck whose shattered rigging and collapsing upper works signaled that the destruction of Black Bart's crew had become only a matter of time. Amid the choking smoke, a deadly volley swept across the exposed quarterdeck, and one musket ball struck Roberts in the throat before passing into his chest, killing one of history's most successful pirate captains within moments. According to long-repeated accounts, he had instructed his men that if he fell in battle, his body must never be captured, so loyal crewmates wrapped him quickly and cast him over the side into the Atlantic before the Royal Navy could claim the trophy. His death shattered the discipline that had held the company together through years of astonishing success. Officers argued, gun crews faltered, and confidence dissolved into panic as wounded sailors stumbled across blood-slick planks littered with broken spars, shattered trucks, torn blocks, severed stays, smashed gun tackles, and fragments of oak blasted from the hull. The mizzen rigging hung in tangled masses while splintered yards crashed onto the deck, crushing men beneath timber weighing hundreds of pounds. Pumps struggled to control flooding where round shot had opened jagged breaches near the waterline, yet every attempt at damage control collapsed beneath continuing bombardment. Royal Navy Marines waited with loaded muskets to repel desperate boarding attempts, while disciplined sailors kept each broadside firing in carefully timed succession. The pirate articles of agreement that had promised equal shares of treasure and compensation for wounds could no longer preserve unity because their authority depended upon a living captain. Without Robert's leadership, Years of carefully cultivated fear vanished almost instantly, leaving exhausted survivors surrounded by shattered timbers, drifting powder smoke, and the grim certainty that the British victory would end not merely a battle, but the legend of an entire pirate company. Resistance finally collapsed as the surviving pirates struck their colors and surrendered to Captain Ogle's overwhelming force. Dozens lay dead, many more were wounded, and nearly every remaining crewman faced transport to trial. Later that year, the great mass prosecution at Cape Coast Castle condemned most of Robert's followers to the gallows, while others received imprisonment or forced labor. The ruthless destruction of Black Bart's crew became one of the decisive blows that accelerated the bloody end of the Golden Age of Piracy.